Hey folks, welcome to One Pissed Call, and we have one of our guests back here today. It's totally not being recorded the same day as the old one. This is actually a month later as you're seeing it. Our boy Landon is back, and of course, the lovely Jessica is joining us as well. What's going on, guys?
Hello.
Yo, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up?
What up? What up?
Hello, YouTube! What up?
As most people listen to this podcast or Spotify, what up, Spotify, don't hate.
Giulioli coming at you with another custom grow 420. Cannabis channel for cannabis patients and adults. All right, in this one, we're going to talk about weed.
Actually, I just had a weed brownie in Minecraft, and because they were fresh, so I decided to do that since this is going to be a shit show anyway.
I had one in Oregon Trail, and I think it was a cow pie.
It was a cow pie, my guy. Are you ready? What are we doing? What are we talking about? What's happening? Jessica,
what you got going on?
What are you pissed about today, Jessica?
So I wanted to talk about something that I think a lot of people don't understand, and it's how people who aren't on assistance or welfare or benefits or whatever you want to call it, how the people who don't get those benefits benefit from those things.
I like this. This is good.
Because the way I see it, the easiest way to convince someone to join your side is to show them how they personally will benefit from that.
Yeah.
So even though that's not my reason for believing that these things are good, but I know for other people it can help them understand how it's good and involves them. So I figured that's the best tool to get people on your side, is to show them how they benefit from these things when they don't think they do. So first off, property value. If we're talking about the people who don't get benefits, you want to talk about the richest people? The richest people in this country benefit from these types of programs because they typically own properties. They typically own stocks in our economic system. So when you can do things that improve the overall experience of a person in that country, property values go up. When crime goes down, property values go up. When education goes up, property values go up. And actually vice versa, because we base our school budgets on property taxes. So when property values go up, the schools get more funding. And when the schools do better, the property value goes up. So there's a lot of ways where there's secular. I think that's the word. They cycle through each other. And people don't realize that.
Yeah, and we've talked about it in the past with public housing and how that would actually help affect richer neighborhoods more positively as well, because they have this claim that the homeless problem is so terrible it's ruining these neighborhoods like in Los Angeles and New York, and it's becoming unbearable. Well, if you build more public housing for people, they won't be on the streets getting in the way of your rich stuff. They won't get in the way of your nice driveway. Also, Landon, are you clicking something on your laptop? Because I'm hearing this clicking, and it's picking up from your audio.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you got to stop doing that. People are just hearing you, I don't know, post on Facebook or something. Anyway, I could clearly hear it. But yeah, so when it comes to those benefits, I really don't care when the rich say that their neighborhood's being ruined. That's not something that I tend to give a fuck about. But if they are truly bothered by it, if there was more of an investment in, I don't know, housing those that are homeless and disenfranchised, then maybe it would help their property value go up. So I think that's pretty easily traceable and can so easily be implemented too, because plenty of other countries do it.
Yeah, those are the two things that everything's going to come back to. It either directly improves property values, or it is an improvement on the economic system and, the value of the dollar. All of those things affect the richest people, right? So when you have things that improve life expectancy, improve quality of life, those things, when you improve the stats of the United States, those who benefit from the ways that our economic system works get benefits. So everything's going to go back to those things. So like you mentioned housing. If there aren't people on the streets, not only is the property value higher, the neighborhood's going to be rated more safely because, one, there's less crime when there's less poverty, but also just not having people outside constantly. Like, people live on the street. It's just going to, even if the crime rates don't go up, people don't like living in areas where they see homeless people.
And it's just an escalation in interaction. Like, the fact is, you're more likely to have situations where you run into somebody who's wanting to do you harm if there are just more people out and about in the streets. I mean, that is just like a numerical way to look at it. You put more people in a place, more people will do things that you don't want them to do. So if there's less people all compiled outdoors in an area, then perhaps it won't be as big of a problem.
Yeah. And people don't realize that being poor is actually really expensive. Because I mean, the simplest example of that is like when you overdraw your bank account and they charge you more money, as if that somehow it makes any sense. Like, oh, you're too poor.
The poor tax, as they call it.
Yeah, or like I've had bank accounts where they wouldn't let me cash my check if I didn't have at least that much in my bank account in case the check bounced. And it's a paycheck from like a large corporation, but they still won't let me have my money right away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, or you can, but you have to pay a fee or things like that.
What are your thoughts on it, Landon?
It's not right. It's not right.
Fair enough.
It's not right.
More specifically, like
poor taxes.
Well,
or just in general, this idea that she's putting forward.
No, you got a point.
Yeah. So, housing is a big one. Housing also will decrease the likelihood that people become drug addicts or overdose on drugs on the street because, it's have you ever heard of, what's it called? Rat World. It's a rat amusement park experiment thing.
Never heard of it, but that sounds like a bomb-ass time. Rat World.
So, this is a good sort of background information for how these things like benefit different people and how helping others can help you. So I believe during the Vietnam War, a lot of the soldiers over there were on heroin. They were given heroin. They were doing it. And people were scared that when they came back, there were going to be a bunch of heroin addicts. Well, this guy did an experiment, and he had two cages with mice in them. One of them, they had space, but they didn't really have anything to entertain themselves with. They just had very basic, like bed, water, food. That's pretty much it. And he gave them a regular water bottle and a water bottle with a drug in it. I think he tried a couple different ones, but he would put some sort of like cocaine or something in one of the waters. And then the other cage, he gave them the same regular and drugged water options, but he also, I can't remember what he called it, like Rat World or Rat Land or something, but he called it like a little amusement park for the rats. He made an enclosure that had tons of activities and tubes and running wheels and things to chew on and all sorts of stuff.
So like a bunch of extra stimuli for them to enjoy.
And then
Gotcha.
he observed how often they did the drugs. And he found that the ones that had other things to do would much rather do that than take the drugs, which I thought was interesting because just from my experience with humans and drugs, I thought they would do the drugs and have fun. But no, they chose not to do the drugs.
They didn't want to impede on their fun.
Yeah,
they didn't want it to be clouded.
Right. And even rats that had been addicted to the drug because they had been in the cage with no other stimuli, when he put them in the nicer one, they would stop doing the drugs and they would drink the regular water and they would play in their little amusement park. And it was to show that, like, sometimes addiction is just because there's no other positive stimuli. You know, if people will get off drugs if they have something else to do. And it sounds really dumb and basic, like, no, just don't do it. But I mean, we're all from the same small town in LaPorte. It's in, like, the Midwest in general. It's like the joke is the only thing to do is go to Walmart.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's something I've actually been critical, and I've spoken to people from LaPorte, and I've been critical of it in the past. Is like, if you build any sort of recreation or even an opportunity for people to get jobs, or like losing the movie theater, people thought wasn't a big deal because, like, whatever, there's one in Michigan City, and I knew. Not just because I love film, but I just knew that it was a huge monumental shot to the community because it's just another thing that kids can't go do.
Yeah, and it's like LaPorte's a great example of that because we basically are the cage with nothing to do but drugs.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah, and that's obviously a huge problem. There was that one year where we had almost 30 ODs in a span of less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
They put up a billboard in town about it. Like, it's a huge factor that people don't take into account is that drug addicts don't want to be drug addicts, don't want to be on the drugs, but their brain doesn't know what else to do to stimulate itself.
Another thing about LaPorte too is it has one of the highest, or at least it did at the time I heard the statistic, which was like 2 years ago, has one of the highest levels of theft related crime in the state. Like, it's not really bad in areas of other crime like domestic violence or anything like that. We're at least not worse so than other places in Indiana, but it is one of the worst when it comes to theft. And I just relate that down to, like, yet again, people are on drugs and there's just genuine beef between people and all this stuff. And it's because there is no recreation for the youths whatsoever. Like, nothing. I was the youngest drama club president to ever be at that high school, like the first one to ever be a sophomore. And I saw it firsthand when, like, I would meet with, like, the outreach people for LaPorte. And they would just be like, yeah, you have no funding to do anything at all. No, none of these clubs do. They don't, like, there is no time after school. What are you talking about? That's insane. And I'm like, oh, okay, so everyone's just going to go do meth now. So, or heroin as the preferred drug of the area.
Yeah, and the fact that probably the most lucrative job you can have here if you don't have a degree is probably selling drugs, especially because
or stealing shit.
Yeah, and so it's like that's how people come up with money to survive, is by doing something illegal because the legal options don't pay you shit. And so that's why drugs become more popular. That's why crimes happen more, is because there's literally nothing else to do, and the legal things that you can do don't provide you enough. So that's how you've got unemployment benefits can help, because if you have unemployment, like, a lot of benefits we have are like preventative measures to keep you from going over that edge and becoming homeless, like unemployment, housing assistance, like food assistance. Those are things that are given to you to relieve, the financial stress on you, so that you don't end up going over that edge and losing your housing. And then you have such a monumental step you have to take to get back to just being okay.
It's honestly, like, there's so much benefit to putting social benefits in place for, like, communities like this. Like, how great would it have been if there was even just, like, a decent recreation center, whereas, like, the only recreation that was happening in our hometown was, like, the YMCA, which is a paid membership kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's tons of that, and people who have lots of money where this isn't a problem, they just don't foresee this as something that they want their tax dollars spent on, or that they want to be taxed more in order to have happen to their communities, and they just don't realize that it would maximally, like, improve their life.
Yeah, a lot of people will see, like, the minor things, like, sure, there'll be less people on the street, but yeah, they don't understand how that improves your property value, which now literally made, if you own property, you're now literally richer than you were before because of that. It's just not like a direct paycheck to you because you have invested in property. So you'll get your extra money when you sell.
Instead, a lot of them
property.
internalize it as, I made a good investment. And like, I guess you could say that's true, but there's more to it than that. Like, you'll, like, a lot of the times,
investing in the community can be just as important to your investment in property.
Yeah, I mean, it is your investment in your property if you think about it. And like, if people who owned property and people who were landlords were like actual business people most of the time, unlike how they usually are just people who buy land. If they were real business people, they'd understand that improving the surrounding community would only protect their investment. But people just don't conceptualize that because they have such a hatred for the poor. I mean, it's true, like in a lot of cases, and it's not always their fault. Sometimes it's the media or maybe just the situation in their personal experience and in their life is really bad. And they for some reason, you know, or just whatever reason, they put that on the people that are being disenfranchised. Maybe they just don't understand that that's a part of the problem.
Yeah, for sure. And then any ways where you're also disadvantaged because you're a minority, then all of these things just hit extra hard because often the assistance programs, one way or another, can be discriminatory.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they try to have assisted programs be as minimally accepting as possible in order to spend the least amount of money. Like that's how most social programs work in general. Landon, is there something you wanted to add?
Social programs are good.
I just feel like we might be railroading you, so I'm trying to involve you in the conversation as much as possible.
No, it's okay. I'm getting some good work done.
I know. I keep hearing the clicking, which I don't want to hear. So
my bad.
Yeah.
It's going to be you two fighting.
Well, it's not that we're fighting. It's that I can hear the clicking, and I told him not to do it once, and now it's about to turn into a fight because he seems like he's still doing it. But whatever.
My bad.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so you have food stamps, WIC, housing assistance, unemployment, all of those things are things that kind of can directly be traced. I think the thing that's harder for people to understand how they benefit from it is things like free education. But and even see, I like to try to frame these things in a way that it benefits someone who has like the opposite views I have, right?
Yeah.
So like, even from a capitalist point of view, if people are educated, if people get free education, that especially if you include like daycare and pre-K.
Yeah, like universal pre-K would result in even their own workers being able to more accessibly come to work, or people to have jobs in order to work.
Daycare
like if you did universal pre-K, it would be such an improvement on the workforce.
That helps the workforce and parents be able to have time because they have someone to watch their kids. But also I don't remember the numbers, but I know there's studies that talk about how like kids who do get into pre-K early education are more likely to end up like getting a degree, and then that's another highly educated person going into the workforce. And so it frees up time, and it also makes sure that everybody has, a quality base level education. Also, when you do free education, because people are accepting money from the government, they have to hold themselves to certain standards. So that would help standardize education, so you don't have some schools that are just making things up and putting them in textbooks.
And so let me just like go ahead and like bring up the devil's advocate position and then completely discredit it right after I say it. The idea that a lot of people would say to that is, okay, that all sounds great in theory, but how do we pay for it? We're overtaxed as it is. And my response to that is a very simple solution. We're putting our taxes into the wrong implementation, being that our military fund is gigantic, but also that we're not actually taxing the top 1% very much, and people in power are getting huge tax breaks consistently, and are even avoiding taxes, like through Jeff Bezos building his little factory in the middle of that like town in Mexico. Did you see that?
Oh yeah,
He built like the American shipping facility right outside of America in like this essential like village that looks like it's from like the third world, is just in the middle is a giant Amazon air conditioned building.
Yeah,
And he
it's
did
like a
nothing to
shanty
help the
town.
surrounding community.
Yeah, it's insane. It's very dystopian. But yeah, all of that, it helps have an educated workforce, which I guess isn't the most ideal situation for some capitalists, because lower educated people are less able to fight for, proper wages and stuff, and like
Have less leverage to do so, which is really
like
what it is.
lesser educated people are easier to manipulate typically, because they just don't have better information about like their rights and how business works and all that kind of stuff.
Well, even if we took away from that, like let's say you have a fairly educated worker, but that wasn't like, let's say they're smart, but they're not traditionally educated in the sense with a degree. It doesn't really matter, even for those people who understand the importance of unionization or whatever it may be, because they have no leverage as far as a job, because it's not like they have tons of options being without a degree to get paid a decent amount. So eventually, when you are in a field that doesn't require a college degree, like when you're in the service industry or whatever it may be, you have so little leverage. And so if we turn that on its side, gave people a better chance to get educated, give people a better chance to get a degree, those who choose to be in the service industry have more leverage to demand their rights and demand better conditions.
Yeah, and also the fact that if you just have on average a more educated society, that just ups the US's rankings, because everyone likes to be number one, but the only thing we're really number one at right now is like school shootings
and childhood obesity. We scored it this year. We lost it to another country last year, and we
How do you both feel about how do you both feel about trade schools?
Oh, I'm down for trade schools. Include that too. Include that with the free education.
I mean, I think that trade schools are fine. In fact, it's a great idea for those that aren't wanting to get into the traditional sense of a degree, and those people shouldn't have to pay insane amounts of money to achieve that. And those people should also be receiving such and being paid in a better way. Like, if we were able to utilize that universally, like give better education opportunities to those that either want to go into heavier education or trade schools or vocational schools, whatever. If you do that, it makes it a lot easier to just unionize as a whole with people going forward into the workforce.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about trade schools, but I know that sometimes they involve like internships, and I know that when it comes to like media related internships, a lot of times people don't get paid. Like when it comes
to fucking don't. I know, because I've been offered jobs in entertainment that don't get paid, and I've worked jobs in entertainment that don't get paid, and they suck. And I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah, so I think that unpaid internships should not be a thing. You just don't get unpaid labor. You just don't. Not allowed.
Like, and the argument that's like, oh, you're learning precious information. It's like, well, yeah, but they're also actively doing work for you. Like, you know what I mean?
Getting a job done, yeah.
Even if it's a matter of like, oh, there's some sort of setup to where maybe they could make a grant for those that are in unpaid internships to get paid by the U.S. government. I'm not totally opposed to those if they're in fields that benefit society, but really it should be on the ones that are offering the internship to make them paid.
Yeah.
Landon, your thoughts?
My thoughts on what?
On trade school. You brought it up. I was just curious on what your thoughts on
I think it's a viable option if you don't want to go to four-year university. I think four-year university after going to school for music is a sham.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, we can get into all the things that I agree with as far as most of the time when higher education.
I always felt, but in high school.
Not always. Go ahead.
I always felt, and this is, I don't know about you both, but in high school they would always post like in the counselor area and the office areas, jobs with like yearly salaries, like dentist, doctor, etc. And I never liked that because it made me think about what I wanted to do for the future and think, well, being a musician is fucking stupid. And then coming to realize that being a musician is fucking awesome.
It's fulfilling, and that's what people should be going for, is what fulfills their lives, as well as
it doesn't fulfill the pocketbook, bro.
Well, it depends. Yeah. It depends on the kind of life you want. Like if you're somebody who
Let me
get this out there. If you want to have a life where it's like, okay, I have a big family and a support system and a house and all this stuff, then your job doesn't have to be something you love, because you have another element in your life where you're getting that fulfillment, and through that, I think your main goal should be being treated with respect and being paid well, or at least well enough to where you're working your 40, 35 hours a week, whatever it may be, and you can sustain your life on that. And that's just not the reality with things right now. And it would benefit everybody in all positions if this was something that was worked on.
Yeah, being the capitalist country that we live in, they want you to what's the term? Min-max your career, minimize all social interactions, maximize how much money you're going to make. And that's how I was growing up. I was like, well, I want to do a job that makes a lot of money so that things are easy. But then I was like, no, I don't want to do any of these jobs because they're not things that I'm interested in or would enjoy doing.
And the thing is too, is I feel like people, it really shouldn't be like, if we were in a better society that valued the worker, because remember, everybody talks about it. This company is so great. I work for them and they pay me this much and this much. Here's the thing. You can be excited about being paid $20 an hour or 15 or 7 or whatever that you think is fair. But understand that most of the time, the people that are signing your checks are not the ones assigning value to this job. It's you that's fucking working there. You know what I mean? You're getting paid because you bring the value. So those that act like there's almost a charity aspect and my job pays me so much, it's no, you earn for your job. That's what everyone does. Most people are just not paid enough.
Yeah, I just saw, I think it was a hard to swallow pill meme or something, but basically the principle of it was there is no capital without first the labor that creates the capital. So there is it all starts with the labor. The capital is not the first step to things.
And what's crazy is in the capitalist mindset, in the sense of the trillionaire mindset, as it's referred to by meme lords on the internet, is actually that you're working, your staff is really almost the bottom of the barrel of your concern. Because the first thing is your return, your product, and then your customers. And then it's the people that literally earn and create all this profit for you in the first place.
And that's exactly why I feel like to get hyper capitalist people to agree to any social programs is by showing them how it is an investment in themselves one way or another.
Yeah,
showing them that your company will lose value if this country continues to have so many problems with the poorest of its community. There's some quote about we judge countries by how many billionaires they have, but really we should judge them by how many poor and homeless people they have.
And I'm over the humanist perspective of trying to appeal to the rich. I'm over these people are suffering, this, that, and the other. Because at the end of the day, you have to come to the conclusion that what you were told as a kid is wrong. It's not that people are inherently good or they're inherently bad. It's that people are driven by their own motivations, and some of those motivations involve them being good people and wanting to help people, and others it doesn't. So the way you need to approve is just to point out the overall public benefit to all. It's the only way you can sell something like that. And it's so hard to do that because there's such a disinformation on the other side of no, this isn't paying people more is a bad thing. This person at McDonald's should make a living wage that will allow them to exist in their life without having to beg for money. that's awful. Like that is literally the mindset. That's the trillionaire mindset. And it's not going to work in the long run either. The system will eventually fail.
But can America be anything else?
It definitely can. Other countries have gone through the exact same thing where
that's other countries.
Well, what do you mean?
It's proof of concept. It's
what
not
makes
necessarily
us special? Why are we so different than them?
Because
we can keep the imperial measurement system and never go to metric as long as we get some social programs.
Yeah, I don't care about going to metric. I could give a fuck.
We can stay imperial.
Listen, I love me some Miles. I'm down. Miles is great. Miles is a great name for like a traditional white guy. Fuck yeah. Shout out to Miles. But like, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm more in the sense of eliminating private healthcare. It's literally just essentially a scheme where a middleman is paid and decides to give you less medicine. But that's most systems. You know what I mean? There's unimportant paperwork and pencil pushing put forward by a lot of different bodies of government or whatever it may be. What were you going to say, Landon? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you.
I lost my train of thought, but that's okay.
You were saying about why our country's different and why we can't be we can't implement more social change.
So how many people live in the United States?
I don't know. I'd have to check. There's a lot, but not as much.
It's roughly
it's just under 330 million.
Right. Now compare that to like Lithuania or Amsterdam.
The square mileage doesn't matter. The per capita
Germany
doesn't matter. Because we also have more earnings than those smaller countries. It evens out. Like we have a larger workforce than them. So as a result, we can reap more social benefits as well through tax dollars.
You don't want that.
You do.
Because you don't.
Yes, Landon, I'm very educated on this. Trust me, you do.
You don't want the taxes.
Why would I not want more social programs and more poor people to get paid and more rich people to get taxed more? Why would I not want that? We're the richest country on earth and we can't afford health care and for people not to die? That's ridiculous.
What is, hold on, I'm trying to figure out what it stands for. OECD. Hold on. OECD. There's a term, OECD. It's a group of countries that are like developed. Like it's just a way of classifying a bunch of countries as like developed countries with similar, kind of on the similar stage of development, basically. And of those nations, we're the only one that like doesn't have universal health care, or at least to some degree. We rank really low in these countries. We rank
in some of the worst public benefit and social programs in the world, but especially amongst the richest countries. And then to top all that off, we also have some of the worst healthcare just in general.
Yeah, we have really
we really do. Like if you actually break it down, it's quite terrible per capita how people are covered health-wise.
The lowest life expectancy of these nations. So it's like, other countries have done things and it's worked for them and we haven't tried it for us, but there is significant evidence that this is causing significant improvements in people's quality of life and life expectancy and all sorts of stuff. And then the main argument you get in return is, but they have to wait for so long. But actually, because I just had this conversation with somebody the other day and I looked up like a ranking of wait times, and Canada was first. Canada does have an issue with wait times. And then the United States.
Because it's so big.
No, it's not. It's because of their free healthcare system is also so new. It's one of the newer of the developed nations. That's actually the reason.
Recently switched, and so there were some doctors who were like, "Well, I'm some doctors were like leaving the country because they could make more money elsewhere." But it's like they still make a totally reasonable.
We're still talking about the top 10% of the nation is like doctors. You know what I mean? Like they're still incredibly wealthy.
Yeah, Canada had the worst wait times, but then it was the United States. And then under that was all the other countries with socialized medicine actually have shorter waits than we do. It's just, it's like on certain things, the wait might be longer, but generally,
And I
the
can
wait
actually
is
break
actually
down,
shorter.
like, I definitively know why it's shorter wait times. And it has more to do with the private healthcare industry in being that there's so much like unnecessary paperwork and pencil pushing that's done in order to see if people qualify for certain things in order to get certain benefits,
Yeah.
that it essentially is just like paying for a loading time, paying for people to find out if you do or don't qualify, when in reality, if it was just more of a socialized idea, it would just be a quicker application of care. It would just be
Yeah.
a more instantaneous
Because
giving
if
of
things,
care.
yeah, things are either covered or they're not covered. It's not, well, every plan is different. So, like, I mean, I can tell you from my experience, when I switched insurance at one point, it took me 6 months to get medical supplies properly, like, reordered and sent to me. And if I hadn't have had my own backstock of supplies, I could have died waiting for that supplies. But I happened to have extras that I was able to use and I didn't run out. But it took 6 months for me to get everything switched over and reapproved and re-signed and find the company that works with the insurance and all of that.
And
6
all
months.
this is done to save money on their part in order to not give it to you.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that the government workers are the ones that are doing all the pencil pushing for them, and we pay that through our tax dollars. So we're paying people to comb through their bullshit to tell us that we're not covered through our tax dollars.
Yeah.
It makes no sense at all.
I'm on government insurance and it was still this hard because the government Medicare and Medicaid that we have isn't really actually run by the government because we still have private insurance companies. They outsource it. So my Medicare plan isn't just Medicare. It's Medicare through Aetna or some other company. So even my government provided plan isn't that easy because it's, well, Michigan has outsourced it to these companies. So you have one of these plans, but those are all different. And so even with our half-assed, you have the option to have free health insurance or whatever if you're poor enough. Even that isn't good enough compared to just actually getting rid of insurance, which is just a middleman.
And there's so much of that where if there was just more, like if there was more taxation put into place where it's necessary, like for instance, if they put a tax on Wall Street speculation, it would cost the actual like buyers and spenders or whatever you want to call them, the Wall Street guys, it would cost them less in taxes than it does for most people to just do their own jobs. So when people are like, you can't tax Wall Street speculation, that's trying to go in on people's profits. Like, these people are already making insane profits. The speculation tax would also be enough to literally give people in the United States free fucking college. That's how much return in revenue you would receive. And it'd be a blip on the fucking radar for people that trade.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the insane thing is the disparity between like $1,000 is, you know, a huge percentage of the average person's like current money that they have, but $1,000 is
like a trader's money, like
it's
nothing.
like 0.00001 of what they have or what they're invested or whatever, and so it's so extreme to look at that. But yeah, defunding
and the way
military,
they're able to. Yeah, and the way that they're able to do this is that they have lobbyists and they use that excess of money they get to influence politics, both on the right, left, whatever you align politically. These people are lining their pockets in order to keep this the status quo. But if you looked at it in like a just pure clerical way of like what would earn all of us the most money and keep people the most happy, they don't give a fuck about that. They care about keeping them even richer. They want to be these giant dragons that lay on their piles of gold and not consider the public benefit.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to think that once you have $1 billion, you're just an evil dragon. But I have yet to find someone who has $1 billion who doesn't behave like a dragon.
Yeah, it's just there's no way to come across that much wealth and it not be taken from somebody else in some way. Even if you weren't the person who directly did that, you're contributing in some way to that happening. If you're at that level, like millionaires, not necessarily, because people can have an exceptionally effective company or product or business and then treat those within their company very well and still make an insane profit. I mean, we are the richest country in the world. But the fact is that when you really break it down, if you're looking at a billionaire, they're making decisions that are like directly against what would be public benefit for the entire nation. And I just don't agree with making things worse to give people an amount of rich that they couldn't even spend in their lifetime.
Yeah. And this like pretty much any other topic that we talk about can lead back to money in politics is the
so
death
bad
of this country.
Such a bad thing. It's not good.
As long as corporations can give as much as they want, they're the ones that are controlling politicians.
Glass-Steagall and shit. What else can we say? Landon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still on the fence.
Well, I'm not sitting here trying to convince you of anything. I just want your opinion of what makes you on the fence. If you can't, I mean, what is something that makes you feel on the fence about it? Like, I'm honestly curious, and I think it's beneficial to have that discussion because maybe you have a point that I haven't considered.
Well, my whole thing is, I don't know. It's you both make really good points. American healthcare is very shitty, for one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just I guess I believe in capitalism.
But what about it do you believe in?
I believe it I believe that it works.
Say it produces innovation. Say it produces innovation, because that's bullshit.
It's not that we're not trying to, railroad you. I literally want to know what it is about it that you think makes it work for you, because a lot of it could be a misconception that is a result of pure-blooded capitalism. Or
I'm definitely not a pure-blooded capitalist.
Well, okay, I'm not accusing you of being one. I'm just saying I think that people like to, like, for instance, people like to egg the fact that we're the richest nation in the world because we're so heavily capitalist, and it's really not necessarily it. It's because we have some of the we own a lot of the consumers of the world because of an intensely large population, for one. But there's a multitude of reasons that is not, it's because we have innovation here and we drive innovation.
There's I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I've seen a lot of good examples where people talk about like the myth that capitalism breeds innovation because it has competition. And I think the first step to like kind of realizing that the first thing that you have to do is realize capitalism isn't what we were taught it was in school. And a lot of the like go-to talking point or phrases that defend capitalism just aren't true.
I mean, it's also like you hear the argument of competition, right? But if you most of the rich people that are rich right now, their parents were rich, and possibly their grandparents. All of them, I've used this example with you before, Landon. It's like I'm starting at the beginning of the race. I'm starting at the very beginning, and then the other person's starting at like the 75-yard line. You know what I mean? Like they're already way ahead before we've even begun. That's capitalism. Like that's more what capitalism is than this open market mythology.
Yeah, I just can't agree with that. I'm sorry.
Well, tell me how you disagree. That's all I want to know.
Well, for one, it's like that's not true.
What? How's it not true?
How can you back that up? How can you?
Well, I
how
mean,
can
I
you
could list
say-
some of the richest people in the world to you, and most of them will have already
okay.
been rich. If you want me to list it that way.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, be right back.
Well, I was saying Elon Musk is like his is generational wealth. A lot of the people who are super rich, a lot of it came from generational wealth. So it wasn't that they worked just as hard as someone who started out living on the street. It's they literally started with enough money to just start a business with. I mean, you start a business with like 20K. These people are given like $1 million to like start a business. And so like a lot of the people who are viewed as like self-made capitalists or whatever aren't that at all. And then also we have more so, especially now, what's called like a crony capitalist society, because we don't have good restrictions on monopolies. There are plenty of companies that basically are monopolies, but they aren't currently classified that way just because our definition of a monopoly is old and it like doesn't include like tech stuff. So like internet providers are monopolies because the way we have it set up in tons of large swaths of the country, you only have one option for an internet provider. So you don't actually have choice in that. And that's capitalism is supposed to give you choice and all of these things. And so that's something where like maybe if it was true capitalism, it would be better. But we have like a corrupted version of capitalism where corporations make a lot of decisions and fund the politicians. So our laws are more, our representatives are more so representing the corporations, and we aren't being represented as individuals.
I did find a whole list of I found like a bunch of lists of people, but it's a lot. Do you want me to start listing some?
Sure.
Okay. Well, there's Elon Musk, which is the obvious one. Hold on, let me get back to this page. I didn't think you'd actually want me to list them. Mitt Romney, of course.
Oh yeah, Ben Shapiro's from rich family too.
Donald Trump.
And also when you think generation, right, like Donald Trump is already like in his 60s or 70s or something. So like his generational wealth came from at least like 80 years ago, if not longer. So that's almost 100 years of that family accruing such a large percentage of the wealth in America.
All right, so there's E.W. Scripps. There is, let's see here. There is Andrew Mellon. There is, I mean, there's tons of these names. Martin Shkreli. These are names, though, that aren't like, it's not like they're going to be plastered everywhere. These are silent rich people. The Walton family. I mean, essentially everyone aside from Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates. Although, is Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates, I know Bezos isn't, but is Bill Gates from a rich family? I'd be better off asking you, name somebody that you think came from natural wealth, and I'll double check to see if they have richness in their family. That's actually an easier thing to do.
Hold on.
Cool.
Well, while he's thinking, I'll give
Roy
you
Kroc.
What's his name?
Ray Kroc.
Okay, Ray Kroc. He swindled the McDonald's brothers out of their franchises. Yes, that's true. That's just one person, and he was a dirty crook who swindled dudes out of their own company. So he's not exactly a great fucking guy to use. But yes, I guess he's self-made. He's a self-made criminal.
Let me give this little story, this little parable that explains how like there isn't actually choice in capitalism. So this particular version of the little fable is from a streamer I watch, but it's not his original idea. I don't know the name of like the original version of it, but the idea is you're on a plane, you crash, you wake up, you're on an island, a very small island. There is one other person on that island. They woke up before you. They collected every source of food on that island. So just to make it simple, there's only coconuts that you can eat. He has collected every coconut. You wake up, you look at him, you say, hey, can I have a coconut? I don't want to die. He says, suck my dick and you can have the coconut. Is that choice? He has the capital. He's asking you to do a job and he'll pay you. Is that choice? Is that a fair situation? Or would you say that's unfair because somebody got a head start and got to collect everything and you started with nothing, and now that person's withholding every naturally existing resource from you?
Okay, so here a list of the richest families. So the Walton family, the Koch family, the Mars family, the Pritzker family, the Mellon family, the DuPont family, the Rockefeller family, the Johnsons family, the Witherhammer family, and the Simplot family are all rich families that inherited their wealth from people who are dead.
And they're like the top.
They're all the top wealthiest families. The only one is Buffett, and did Warren Buffett? He technically did come across his wealth on his own.
But now it's his kids that it's been passed down.
That's true, and it's like once he's dead, then it'll be a complete list of just rich people who are rich well before any sort of innovation in capitalism that they committed. You know, most of this wealth was accrued long before, long before, except for with the Walton family, but still, the guy who did that's not alive anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, and also our system, it's clear if you look at the distribution of wealth over time, our system is just funneling more and more money to that same top 1%. And so, like, even if you generally think the system is all right, if you see that pattern, like, that's going to be problematic eventually, even if you don't think it is now. If you just keep sucking all the wealth and putting it at the top, and then it's not being used in any way to help replenish the economy.
An example with, like, the Walton family, right? Like, they are getting richer, but it's not through any innovation of their own. It's because they have all of these Walmarts and different companies that they have, and then they essentially force the U.S. government to give their own employees health care instead of them.
Yeah. Walmart,
I mean, like, they're so rich and they can't even implement health care for all their workers. It's put on you, the taxpayer, to do it.
Yeah, how do you feel about that, Landon? You're paying for the health insurance of Walmart employees in your taxes, even though the company could. They just choose not to.
Shout out Damon. What's up? My boy, he works at Walmart. I hope he hears this. He'll be like, ooh, that's
I got a friend that works at one Walmart somewhere. Yeah,
dude. Shout out to Damon. Should send you a thank you text, Landon.
Yeah. No, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's really like I don't see an issue with the idea of making money in the richest country on the planet. It's the fact that capitalism is not necessarily what people say it is, and more importantly, that it's heavily abused by those that already reap the benefits of past wealth. They control the future of the country and the future of the capitalist society that they've built. They are the ones who decide what rules are implemented, and as a result, they kind of decide who's rich too.
And, you know, there isn't an entirely socialist economic system in a country anywhere. Any country
no one wants a full socialist, but things need to move, in my opinion, to the left in order to just help benefit society.
Yeah, and so even the countries that I would like idolize, you know, like your Scandinavian countries and Germany, and I believe Denmark has good social programs, all that. Those, and I would love to live there or have those benefits here. They're still capitalist countries. They're just capitalist countries with heavy socialist programs, and they live happier lives, longer lives, healthier lives, more productive lives.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a marriage of the two, right? I mean, even if you look at the most conservative capitalist out there, there is still a belief that they think that firemen should exist, right? even if you're anti-cop, you think a fireman should exist as someone who is prepared and trained to put out a fire in order to save lives and property.
Yeah,
and that's something that we pay for through a social program. We pay for firefighters.
And if you would propose, oh, we're not doing that anymore, you have to pay a fireman up front to put your house out. Like,
yeah, exactly. They would come up with like the credit card slider, dude. Like you're at like a festival with the iPad. They'd be like, all right, if you want to save your fucking, if you want to save your dining room table, dude. They start measuring before they put the fire out.
Yeah.
How much fire are we putting out?
Even the most socialist countries aren't actually entirely socialist countries. So like there's a lot of fear mongering about we can't do that. That's socialism. But like, yeah, we already have tons of things that are socialism. And
like, even if we added all the social elements that me and Jessica are talking about, we would still be considered one of the most capitalistic countries on the planet. You know what I mean? It would still be, we'd probably still be like number one, even with these social programs implemented. It just, we wouldn't have rich people that are like laying on piles of gold.
Yeah, we would probably actually start doing even better because of all, like eventually, like it takes time for things like free education and free healthcare to have a massive effect. But like, if we did implement those, we would do even better because you would increase your productivity by having more people working, less people on the street. Because it goes back to the whole idea that like homeless people just don't care, they're not doing anything. No, homeless people, most of them would love to have a job, but it's damn near impossible to get a job.
Or for those that don't, those that suffer mental health issues, it's not like they exactly have a great avenue in order to have those things treated, or even that there's an agency for people to take them to be treated if they can't do it themselves.
Yeah, and having an address that you can put down on paperwork opens up healthcare, job.
You know, Landon, you just stole my address to put it on something like a week ago.
Addresses are important.
They are. You still there, bud?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm still there. No, you all make valid points. I don't want to come off as like a capitalist, but you know, like a diehard capitalist.
Yeah.
My views are more libertarian in the long run.
Yeah,
I do believe in social programs. I don't know. I get the ick every time I think about someone going in my pocket.
Yeah, but they're already going in your pocket to pay for like the military fund, and like the thing is that the government maybe not be going to your pocket as much for healthcare, but there's a middleman that's charging you in the long term more.
Yeah,
you know? And I'm not saying that you disagree with that. I'm just pointing that out.
I look at my pay stubs and I'm just like, where the fuck is all this money getting taken out of?
The one thing that's common in like Germany is like, you know, everybody hates when your money is taken away, right? But like people overall will express more satisfaction with where the money goes because they personally are experiencing it. And I think that's a big roadblock for people is they're like, I get taxed right now and I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of that. But if because also when you do
but imagine if you got taxed and then you could just go to the hospital and never think about like whether you're going to be able to afford it or not. You know what I mean? Like it's just
the math that actually it ends up working out where you pay less for
I benefit.
Yeah, they actually show.
I benefit from Obamacare.
Yeah. And there's a great video by H. John Benjamin. It's on a Bernie Sanders channel, but he just breaks down like the monetary states that we would go through if we were to go to a free healthcare situation, and it would save not just every household money if they switch to a universal healthcare system. You would save money every year.
Yeah, so programs like that, like okay, in Germany, they pay. You know how we got like the kid tax credit during COVID? Well, in Germany, they just always do that. You always get a little bit of extra money to help take care of your kids. School's free, like colleges. I believe Germany was even doing a program where U.S. citizens could come over.
Yeah, my friend Dylan went. Shout out to Dylan. What up?
Oh, yeah.
Dude. So Dylan Rydell, what up, dog?
Yeah, there's just a lot of ways that, like I said, it's a big roadblock where people feel like they don't see the results of the money they pay in. But in countries that have socialist programs, they specifically have like looked into this and shown that people are, even though like even people who have moved from America to there are happier that they pay more taxes because they feel like they are significantly benefiting from it on a regular basis. And it's things like, I feel safe here. I feel comfortable. Like, I don't feel like my kids are going to get shot in school. And that's because we have mental health care and like, daycare services and all of these things that keep people from being homeless or kids from being unsupervised or mental illness from getting out of control. So they feel safer. They feel more, it's just a lot of different things, even beyond, well, they send me money for this.
And like one of the biggest things too that you're like taxed on, right? And like anybody's taxed on it is actually like the military industrial complex and like paying for war efforts. And the thing is people regard that as a safety net for the world, people that are very America positive. And like, sure, I can agree or disagree with you on that. That's not the point. But I just feel that if we're paying individually out of our pockets for that, wouldn't you rather have first a personal safety net of like, oh, if I'm very poor, I'm not going to die on the street. Like, I would rather my tax dollars go to that, even if I wasn't feeling the personal benefit myself, which you would over time, over not even much time at all, you would start seeing that. But even just on like a personal level, I'm not as interested in blowing away brown kids in the desert as much as I am like making sure that people who are homeless here are taken care of.
That's a very bleak picture.
It's true, bro.
Disagree with that, I dare you.
I am.
Okay. How so?
Because it's like, that's like just an oversimplification of.
Okay, so then get into the nitty gritty.
Dude,
I
know that's an oversimplification. I don't sit around, thinking about the war effort.
And how do you know it's an oversimplification if you don't even sit around and study it?
It's just, it just is.
How do you know that if you don't even know?
Let me just say, okay, I think a little perspective helps in this conversation because, like, okay, defund the military, cut the military budget, whatever. That does sound scary because the world is a scary place. But we could literally cut our military budget in half, and we would still have the world's largest.
Yeah, we have the world's
budget.
largest by like 100%, like 100 times over. It's some ridiculous that I think that's actually the real statistic, but I could double check. It is gigantic amounts more than the second biggest military fund. Gigantic.
Do you agree with America not getting involved in other people's?
It depends on the scenario.
Politics?
It depends.
Okay,
it
let's
depends.
take it.
I think we do get involved in too many things.
Yeah, we definitely, and we do so a lot for personal benefit
to
fund the industrial military complex.
I mean, so let's take taking soldiers out of Iraq.
What about taking soldiers out of Iraq?
You don't have to take anybody out of anywhere active to decrease the military budget. You don't even have to actually take anybody out of anything.
You literally just have to stop buying nuclear warheads and shit.
Yeah,
like you just need to
what
stop
we do
buying tanks.
It's just buying and
giving
producing
them
war materials, which then are only like, especially if we're not actively using them, they will sit and then they can't be used after a while. So like it has to do with a lot of spending on military equipment, a lot of dark money that isn't traceable, because like the Pentagon does all the military budget and all that stuff, and they regularly report billions of dollars that they can't tell you. They can't explain where it went. It's not even like it's classified.
Dude, like for instance,
they don't know what they did. They don't have record of what they did with it. So at least if you cut their budget, we would at least hope that they would do less of that because they have less money to throw around. But also we have a lot of military bases in countries where we have no reason to
there's
have
no
a military
conflict.
base.
And
Yeah,
and
it's
we
really
militarize.
It's like an imperialistic move to have some of these bases in countries that we have absolutely no reason to have military there. We don't have a problem with them, or we'll have it very near a country And it's you know, it's like an intimidation tactic. It's like a game. It's like, look, my flag's right here. So, you know, like
we militarize also opposing sides at times. We personally give weapons to other countries as well, given through our tax dollars, right? We fund, like we used to fund the Mujahideen, right? Like we helped militarize a lot of like ISIS and Al Qaeda and shit. We personally do that. Like that's coming out of your tax dollars to do so. That's how large our military fund is. We're weaponizing at times even people that turn out to be our own enemies to further fuel the machine of the military industrial complex. It's not a conspiracy. It's something you can read flat out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jessica, I interrupted you, but I just wanted to get that part out while we were still talking about the military stuff.
For sure. Yeah, you're right. We have a on record history of giving people weapons and then later yelling at them and getting mad at them and then fighting
spending
them.
more tax dollars fighting them. Yeah, the people we gave the weapons to, and then they're fighting us back with those same weapons we paid for. We pay for entire wars at times. Like, think about that.
Some of these instances, it was a socialist country that had a democratically elected president, and then we're like, no, that socialist country can't do this well because that looks bad on us capitalists. So then they pay people to go in and cause problems and disrupt and do a coup or whatever. Like, they have different things like that. They fund people, give them money, and then they like, oh, look how bad this socialist country is doing. The people hate it there, but it's not really the people hate it there. It's this group of extremists that the U.S. government
let's just back it up. Like, do we have to get involved in every single country's beef in all situations? Like, I understand that we should at times. There are systematic, like, there's values, right? Like that we don't want people to literally be enslaved and tortured, and if we can get a way around that, then I'm not fully against like spending our own money to cause that to like interrupt that conflict, right? But that's not the case. Most wars are started over, they have oil, let's start beef with them so we can steal that shit. Or, oh, we funded these guys to overthrow their government and now we're going to fucking go after them, and the spending keeps going. It's justifying a bill. And then those people that work in the industrial, the war and all that stuff, the people that make these weapons, they then pay for their own lobbyists to push the same agenda in politics. It's an ongoing cycle of people getting paid and blown up. That's really what a lot of war efforts legitimately are.
Yeah, I would recommend looking into let's see, like myths of capitalism, because it is one of those things where, like, even when we were in school, what we were being taught was a really biased version of things. And now even updated textbooks have slightly less biased economic teachings. But, you know,
in high school, I had to watch Dave Ramsey videos, and like, that's fine and all. Like, he has good tips for people on an individual level, but it was crazy to me that I was being taught about like the importance of like investing and things like that at that level. It just didn't make any sense. And the ways that they would explain how like it's morally good to, you know, to bet on the short stock and stuff like that is kind of fucked up. Like, I'm just saying, there is this element where they really like to paint things in this great light that we're a prosperous country solely because we are a capitalist society, and that's just not the truth. It's not the only reason that this is a great country. It really isn't.
And yeah, capitalism is such a competitive thing, and it now, as like an adult, it's weird to me that most people want the economic system in the United States to be a hyper competitive thing instead of a cooperative thing that benefits, that works in favor of everybody. Instead of pitting people against each other to fight for resources, like, why wouldn't you want a system that allows everyone access to resources to improve their lives? But that's just
I don't know. I don't know. To be honest with the both of you, I guess I'm so far removed from even thinking about this type of stuff that
Mhm.
my shit's old textbook shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and also like,
To be completely honest, like I eat breathe music
mhm.
so much that let's see.
Well, no one's blaming you for
I,
having these
I don't
views
I
or
know
like.
I know I'm not I don't feel I don't feel like anyone's putting me down or anything.
No, okay, good. I just want to
I
clarify
no
that, like,
I know I don't disagree with anything anyone's saying. I just have my biases and my views and you know what I how I view the world and whatnot. But
Yeah,
I
I don't checking out
just
some content that
e-
on like the
even
myths that, I
checking
mean,
out.
even if it's not specifically about capitalism, but just learning about the things that we learned in school
I mean,
that
the
are
only thing
biased.
that looking at the opposing view will do is make you either more educated on why you believe what you believe, or possibly give you a new understanding. Those are the only
Sure,
two. Those are the only two
sure,
outcomes.
sure.
You know what I mean?
I don't disagree with that.
You can
It's
only
just
benefit to learn more.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I mean, I feel like we've been going for a while. If we want to wrap it up here, Jessica, is there anything else you wanted to mention since we were talking about public benefit and stuff like that?
Um, no, I just suggest that everybody looks up myths of capitalism because I think that's something that I mean, is still being taught today. I know some textbooks are better and, some teachers are better at it, but like looking up things that have changed since you were in school, just in general. I suggest
Yeah,
doing that.
you'd be
Update your
surprised at
knowledge.
how much even history books have changed. Like, and
Yeah.
and it's not always a matter of like, oh, people are trying to misinform you. I also think that it's an ongoing tradition of misinformation too. Like, there are just some things that were purported at a point in time as being absolute fact and aren't anymore. Like, on
Yeah.
like a psychology standpoint, people used to think the Stanford prison experiment was like this definitive proof that people are innately bad or angry. And now they retried that, experiment, and it didn't come out with the same results. So these kind of things, their perspectives are always changing. So all you can do is try to keep up with what the truth is, and to not speak in absolutes, like capitalism good, socialism bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't think that.
No, we're not saying you do. I'm saying in general.
I know. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know.
Appreciate you talking to us
Dude,
about it,
this
even
is
if it's
so
not
good. You
something
have
that
to
we
come
live
on
in.
and talk to us more about politics. This was fucking awesome.
I'll come on anytime.
Dude, absolutely. And maybe we can do one too, like we were talking about, where we go over MLMs. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
What's
I
that
think
mean?
that'd be a fun topic because we can just
I
rip
don't know. I
on
don't know.
weird products.
I don't know what MLMs is.
Multi-level market pyramid schemes.
Yeah, like multi-level marketing schemes, like schemes where it's like, you can make money by selling Plexus, and then you get a friend to sell Plexus, and then that
Yeah,
friend, then it's
basically
all
you make
just
your money
passing the
from the
buck
Is
down the
creators.
that is
Yeah.
line.
that the same? Is that the same when like Venmo or Cash App gives you money for referring people?
No,
No,
because
because
they're trying to isolate the market. They're trying to get a lot of users, so that's totally legit.
you get money for signing people up, but it's not just like they sign up. It's like they now work for the company.
Yeah, they also now sell things. That's how you make money, by referring them to work there. And then they just keep passing the buck, because the only way you can really make money doing it is by convincing people that you're making money doing it and having them sell it, until
It's a
eventually the
Ponzi
last person
scheme with
makes no
a product.
money.
It's a Ponzi scheme with a product. So like Ponzi scheme is just, oh, you give me $5 and then you get five people to give you $5. Now you have 25
Mm-hmm. And
and
that,
you just keep going up. But MLMs, the way they get around it is by selling a product. So they
Give
claim
me an
that you make
example of an MLM.
Herbalife.
Herbalife's a big one, where they were
Uh,
selling. The idea of Herbalife was that they were
Oh,
selling.
is Alpha Brain an MLM?
No, Alpha Brain is just a supplement that doesn't do anything.
but like
They don't. There's not people who
Mary
also
Kay,
sell Alpha Brain
Pampered
like
Chef,
that.
Beachbody, It
Beachbody's another
Works.
one.
Yeah, I think It Works and Beachbody are the same company. But there's a bunch of them.
Helvetica Knives was a big one. They did door-to-door knife
knives.
sales.
Amway is the longest running MLM.
Amway's huge. Yeah, that's a good point.
So, like, Weight Watchers?
No, Weight Watchers is just a fad diet that works for some people. I think that if you like Weight Watchers and you're somebody who has issues with portion control or can't, doesn't know how to regulate a diet for yourself, like if Weight Watchers is something that works for you, go for it. And then, you pay for their services and knowing like they tell you what you can eat or conferences. But if you're somebody who starts working for Weight Watchers and recruiting them, and the only way you get paid is by recruiting people, then it's magically turned into an MLM.
What's Beachbody?
It's like a plastic. It's like a cream you put on your stomach, and then you wrap yourself in plastic, and it's supposed to help you lose weight. But there's zero evidence this cream does anything.
That's so startling.
So Burn is a peer MLM.
And
so you're selling Burn?
Okay, so you have to sell the shit too?
Yeah, when you make more money getting other people to join than you do selling the product.
Pampered Chef.
Yes, Pampered Chef used to not be, but it is now. Same with Mary Kay.
Okay.
Hustlers University.
All right. I pick up what y'all putting down.
Yeah.
I think what would be, kind of funny is like y'all tell me shit and then I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, I think telling you about some of the MLM products would be a lot of fun because some of their products are ridiculous.
I mean, I literally wake up in the morning and play a djembe to get like spiritually connected to the forces of music. That's how like.
So you don't have any thoughts on NFTs like or anything?
No, I like when people say NFTs, I'm like, not fucking true, or like I don't know what.
Dude,
I don't know.
I don't thing you've ever said.
I don't know what cryptocurrency is.
Good.
I mean, I do know what cryptocurrency is, but like people explain it to me, and I'm just like drooling at the mouth. I'm serious. A lot of it I don't know,
really a scheme to make money.
I feel like SpongeBob from the episode where, Squidward tells SpongeBob to get everything in his mind out and only focus on fine dining and breathing. And I'm serious. Like, dude, I wake up seriously. I wake up in the morning. Don't judge me. I wake up in the morning. I grab my drum pad and I grab my sticks. I have a pair of sticks sitting
on your nightstand.
On my nightstand.
And expect nothing else.
And I start practicing.
Dude, when you were staying here, we couldn't even watch TV without you, which it doesn't bother me. It's never really bothered me because you've always been kind of like that. So it's never really pissed me off or anything. But I just think it was so funny for like Franny, who like didn't really spend like a whole lot of time with you. Like every day we'd sit down, we'd be watching something, maybe for the podcast, maybe not, and you just be like the whole movie.
And now I got Franny doing it too.
Yeah, it fixed her freaking arthritis or her carpal tunnel or carpal tunnel. Yeah, carpal tunnel. We all know him. He's quite the guy.
What I'll like navigating TikTok for me is like. It's so weird because I'll be swiping there. I have some beef with TikTok in like regarding their privacy policy, but I still use TikTok, so like I'm not afraid to use it. But some like memes like hey bro, don't look. Someone's like looking at you, and they're like, okay, I won't look. And then, like, they just get up next to them and, like, get up in their fucking business. And I'm like, how is that funny? Or, you know what I fucking hate?
Landon, you're so boomer brained. You specialize in the least popular music in the United States. And you do not understand TikTok. It is. There's actually you can look that up. That's actually a real statistic. It's the least
genre. It's, jazz will always be, like, 2% of all record sales in the music industry. And like, no, I completely understand that.
And I honestly think it just speaks to like your devotion to your craft, that you live every day as like a boomer who loves jazz. Like, I think that works. And I think that it just
hello,
shows,
my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime girl.
You know, like maybe one day, like you'll just be like one of those names, you know, who knows?
I don't know about that, but like, I'm not selling cars. I want to blow my brains out, you know, like thinking about working in grocery stores.
Oh gosh.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah, working.
I'm just not, you know, as much as you know, I appreciate the both of you keeping up on like things about the world and things.
I mean,
about
you
the
did
government.
ask to be on this political podcast.
No, I understand.
What happened?
No, I guess I realized that. Holy shit! Like,
we're like in the nitty gritty of it.
Well,
I'm disabled and unemployed. I just sit at home and research just random things that interest me all day.
And I've been involved.
Knowledge of these things.
I've been deeply involved in politics since 2012, when I phone baked for Bernie Sanders, and he wasn't even running for president. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna start giving you crap for the fact that you've mentioned that, and I think almost every podcast.
Well, because I had to mention it to have him understand why I am so in the nitty gritty, because I wanted to illustrate this point that most people are not.
Flex on everybody.
Is that how you? Oh yeah, Miss. I went to school for psychology in the one episode where we talked about psychology. Please don't even give me that shit. Anyway, guys, it's been so much fun. If you want to listen to the music that Landon was talking about and just check out his general content, where can they find it?
On Hell Captive Media, because I haven't posted it anywhere else.
Okay, yeah, you can check it out on Hell Captive Media at YouTube, which is my YouTube channel. Also, you can keep listening to this podcast if you want to hear my views on Bernie Sanders. By the way, I think I've only mentioned it in like 2 other podcasts, so that's not that many. Doesn't matter. Also, if you want to hear Jessica's journey in general, or just follow her, you can check out Mrs._Spacetime on TikTok. I'll also have her links down in the link tree. If you want her thoughts on psychology, I'm sure she'll share them.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace out, kids.
Adios.
Bye. I fucking hate this. I hate listening to that.